Good morning, Breakfast Clubbers.
Good morning.
What we're going to do today is, the first thing is sing. You got your song sheets, you got to sing. All you new guys, I'm sorry, you thought you ate and you didn't have to sing. It's a good time to get acquainted. It's a good time to know who is standing close beside you and to smile and say hello. Goodbye, that lonesome feeling. Goodbye, glassy stare. Here's my hand, my name is blah, 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 blah. Put your hand right there. Damn, I should get paid. You know what happens in the morning when I do that, it's declare your independence, sort of stand cock here up in Phoenix, Arizona, from the BEA beautiful studios of Freedom's and Nest, Phoenix, Dock. Wow, that was a good one. I never get those. I mean, they're all really bad, and every now and then I'll get a good one. All right, what we're going to do today is Dr. Phranq is, like Dr. Phranq and me. So he'll be here whenever, and he's going to get us all caught up on the Trump administration. Since the escalator ride down in Trump Tower back in, June or July of 15, every Thursday we've done the Trump report for 2 years. And it's been, an average of 3 to 5 hours that we just going at it on everything Trump for that week. I'm trumped up, but I'll tell you what. It is the same I've been dealing with for freaking ever. It's just a little bit more out in the open for people to see. For anyone that's been an activist, certainly a libertarian, you recognize all this stuff. But the pimple is getting ready to go all over the mirror, man, for everybody to see. I like that one, that was good. So it's going to be a mess. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's coming, and we'll have, I won't steal any of Phranq's fire, let him do that. What the other thing is Dave Hodges, we did, last week we had a party for Michael Badnarik. Michael Badnarik was the Libertarian presidential nominee in 2004. And it was the last time that the Libertarian parties got represented by someone that didn't totally suck. And Michael was a good guy. He was kind of a libertarianish, Ron Paul, Constitution. He'd give classes on the Constitution and everything. And his parents finally passed and kind of freed up his time. And he's back in the workforce doing computer training for corporations or something. And he's been doing well. He's making some money, and he may be able to come by and visit more. Someday might move to Arizona. But so it was good to catch up with a good friend and someone of principle. And since then, they, them, those have got us Bob Barr, as a libertarian candidate. That didn't work out very well. Gary Johnson advocating for a tax, which libertarians freak out about. Then you have in 16, he ran, the VP nominee was Bill Weld. Now, Bill Weld was governor of Massachusetts as a Republican. It seemed as kind of liberal by conservatives because he knew how to spell marijuana or something. But what happened when he became the nominee, it was a very contentious national convention in Orlando last year. And they did not want him. And he finally got the vote with bust-in people at 50.6%, kind of, and he's it, and he's the guy. But now this is what's going to happen. Oh, hey, doctor. So then what happened was he is now, I see, as the front contender, and the machine is supporting behind. He's going to be running for president, libertarian, in 2020. Bill Weld. The guy, listen, a week before the election, went on MSNBC and vouched for Hillary Clinton. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
He goes in and he said, well, I'm here to vouch, and I'm a voucher for Hillary. She gets vouched by me. Vice presidential candidate for Libertarian Party vouching for Hillary. I know it's not an endorsement. I'm just vouching for her good character and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my God.
Good character.
So this is what we got to contend with. So how bad this thing, so their convention is in New Orleans this next year. So I've been advocating that all the old libertarians, we just go have some fun, watch the show. Yeah, whatever, we don't care. You're just going to watch the show and go party. So it'll be fun to see what happens. A lot of things going on behind the scenes, but the politics has gotten weird, really weird. And one of the things is of course, it's the money. And we talked about last year about how the economics of the dollar are going to go. God, seriously, man, am I interrupting you?
It's something pertinent to...
He actually says she's a person of high moral character. Even worse.
Yeah. So he's not going to live that one down. So this is going to be, this year, economic, maybe Tim has something to say about it since he's obviously wanting to talk. So we're going to go ahead and have the crash that was in '08. It's Big Brother's coming. And I'm thinking, I don't think people realize what's happening. Now, there he is. We were doing the countdown. Who won the pool? So what I wanted to do is, can you give a thing real quick on what you see is happening in the economics of and last year and now and some of the signs? Are you, sharing with your client? Can you do something? Well, come on up because you're going to pay for interrupt me. So then, Tim Pachote, the Libertarian Advisor, he's a financial planner, consultant, certified, got all kinds of government-paid initials after his name and a card and stuff. Financial planner for people in Scottsdale, well, everywhere, but he has offices in Scottsdale. I just wanted to give us a snapshot of what's happened over the last year that we've been screaming and warning that something's coming. Is it here? Because we're starting to see all the signs that I was waiting on. Tim, get them caught up.
All right, so I wasn't really prepared to speak. I just wanted to interrupt Ernie a couple times today. But what I see is that I think the biggest problem looming is that right now you've got a lot of complacency. And 2 weeks from now, it's going to be 9 years since the 2008 financial crisis, which started September 15th, 2008, when Lehman Brothers went down, which was also coincidentally my first day in the business. So I know that day very well. And what I've seen is that people right now are completely complacent. It's been 9 years. They've already forgot about the financial crisis. And I'm not talking about this crowd. I'm talking about the general public. And what I really don't know or what I really don't understand is we've never seen this amount of money being put into the system before. And the Federal Reserve stopped printing money in late 2014, around Halloween 2014. But it was 2 days later, the Bank of Japan had a massive, basically their quantitative easing program was massively expanded, or their money printing program. And then a few months after that, the Europeans started printing a massive amount of money. And really, at the beginning of this year, for the first half of the year, there's been over $1.5 trillion globally that have gone into the financial system. So this is real. So the average person doesn't realize that there's been $1.5 trillion new dollars printed up going into the system. And since this really has no historical precedence, it's really, the next crisis can unfold in many different ways. And one of those ways could actually be the stock market could potentially go to infinity, but that doesn't really matter for the 90% of people that aren't participating in the stock market. Or it could be a situation which I think is more likely where it ends up going down, and then there's some prolonged period before the Fed starts printing more money, then eventually it skyrockets back up. But it skyrockets back up not because things are going amazing. It's skyrocketing because of like what's happening in Venezuela, where priced in their own currency, their stock market's through the roof, but it takes all of your money to buy a loaf of bread. And so there's a lot of different ways that this can play out. I'm not smart enough to know exactly which way it's going to play out, whether it's hyperinflation or whether it's deflation then followed by inflation. But all I know is that at the core of the crux of the whole problem is that our money is created from debt. So from day one, you can never pay back the debt. So if I'm the Federal Reserve or I'm the Treasury and I lend a dollar to Ernie and then I charge him 4% interest on it, at the end of year one, he's going to owe me, let's say he owes $1.04 to pay it back. You can never pay back $1.04 if you only created $1. So then you've got to borrow another dollar. And so right from day one, the whole system is a scam. And you can milk the peasants for a long time and let this whole charade continue. But once you get up to the point where you're $20 trillion in debt, and that debt doesn't even include Social Security, and the debt also doesn't include Medicare, which is a bigger liability than Social Security, and it doesn't include any of the wars. It's like saying I'm doing great financially if you don't count my mortgage and my student loans and my car payment, and that's exactly how the government accounting of all this stuff works. So we're getting to the point where we can't afford higher interest rates, because if we did have higher interest rates, the whole system would implode, because even if we had, let's say, a 2 or 3% federal funds rate, that means the government would have to probably borrow at 5% of 20 trillion is $1 trillion in interest, and at that point it's completely game over. It's just, are they, the powers that be, are they going to, let this go down without a fight, or are they going to then try to use the crisis and usher in, like G. Edward Griffin, who was on your show yesterday. G. Edward Griffin, in his book Creatures from Jekyll Island, they talked about, we shall have a one world government. It's only a matter of through consent or conquest. And so they're going to try to use whatever crisis is coming to issue in more control, issue in more top-down authoritarianism. And I wasn't really prepared to speak on anything today, but that's what I think is the biggest problem coming, is that people are really complacent now. They have no idea how it's going to unfold, and they're going to want more. They're going to want somebody else to fix it, and we all know that their version of fixing it is just going to make our life, there's going to be more laws, more control, and it's probably going to make things even worse. But I don't know, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, this is not a secret what's coming. Dave Hodges will kind of give us some of the political and social background, and then of course before even Dave, I wanted to do Phranq and give us an update on Trump. But we're going to go first with Davi, because what's happening here, after the 2008 financial crisis hit, all of a sudden, immediately after the week, there was a posting on a Geek Hub's website called GitHub, which is just a bunch of geeks talking about how geeky they can be, save the planet, be geeks. And he goes, I have come up with a digital cash called Bitcoin that can do all this stuff, and we don't have, we have trustless money, which means you don't have to have a third party hold your account. Or the government goes to a bank and there's a garnishment, a lien of we lost it, it's not yours, it's yours, but you can't have it now. Limits on kind of, we got to report to the government and you did this much, so we need to know about it kind of thing. If we are able to go to this digital money, of which getting all the details doesn't matter. I spent hours with Dave last week explaining kind of, the probably still, his cortex hurts. But the bottom line is this: there is a solution. The problem is the government doesn't want the solution to be private. They don't want it to be out in the hands of not them. Certainly to where it's worldwide, and half the planet that doesn't even have a bank account and can't conduct commerce because it can't even afford the fee to even get it. Plus every transaction is going to cost. What happens when you are in control of your own bank account on your phone? You can move your money and wealth around any way you want, anywhere you want, instantaneously for almost nothing. This is what the competition is. And the government is going at warp speed, trying to come up with the same technology so that they can have Goldman Sachs coin, okay? Federal Reserve Goldman Sachs coin or something, right? Well, there's an alternative, many alternatives. So this is what's coming. We're going to Aspen, Colorado, at the Nexus Earth Conference. That is September 21 to the 23rd. Here's just a list. This is just like a portion of the speakers. Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, Peter Schiff, Roger Ver, Jeff Berwick, Adam Kokesh, Jordan Page, Drew Phillips, myself, Jim Cantrell, that owns Vector Space Launch Systems. Remember me talking over the years, I'm saying, we're going to space and government's not invited? 2 Fridays ago, Davi and I went to the factory floor of a space launch system that just got $30-something million in them developing, because that's exactly what they're doing, launching CubeSats into orbit so that his son that created Nexus, one of the cryptocurrencies that's doing really well, can put the blockchain there, serve the memory and the mesh network in space. Because how far is freedom, Davi?
62 miles.
62 miles that way. You go 100 kilometers and you are in sovereign space. There are no laws that apply 62 miles up. Man, I feel the sun there. Damn. 62 miles up. So freedom is on the border. Run for the border. It's only 62 miles away. And we're going to start getting, that's what all the precariat is about and everything. We get people thinking three-dimensionally. Because once you get off this rock, the man don't like it because they can't control you. All the commerce controls, I can go on and on and on about that, and it's here. And we're going to be hearing a lot about it at this conference. And before, when you guys leave, if you want, $10 a piece, because it costs us to do them, but there are a bunch of shirts that we have out here for this conference. If there's something you gotta have in your size on this table in here, let me know, and we'll make sure you get hooked up. But I need, I'm not giving them away because I need them. But what we'll go ahead and do is have Davi come on up, and I want him to explain the philosophy of what's coming. There are solutions, but they don't want there to be. Bitcoin has gone from the last time we talked from less to a lot more now, and why? Davi.
Morning, everybody. So, in typical Breakfast Club fashion, I've been asked to speak without any preparation. So here I am, your amateur Bitcoin expert. I guess I want to get a little bigger than just Bitcoin, obviously, and I want to talk about just sort of ideas in general. I have this sort of thought in the last few days about memes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this concept. I don't just mean like pictures with text on Facebook. I mean like the concept that ideas are infectious and they move from person to person kind of in herds. So like an idea might start with a person, transmit to a bunch of other people, evolve, and end up in a community that wasn't even the progenitor of that idea, if that makes sense. And so if you look at the long haul of this thing, when I first got involved in anti-Federal Reserve activism, it was 2003, and I had just discovered Ron Paul and G. Edward Griffin and these guys, and I looked around me and
wait. You got to tell them the story of how you found Ron Paul and why. Okay. I couldn't believe this. We had G. Edward Griffin on, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, on yesterday, and I go, tell G. Edward this story. Go.
I was just reading the Congressional Record.
No. Why would you read in the Congressional? See, he just thinks, here's a young guy in college, let's go read the Congressional Record. Why don't we just do that? Who the hell does that?
I was getting to it. So I was a young college student, and I think it was Bush and Gore or something was the election at the time, and this was in 2000, so it must have been Bush. And I just was really into conspiracy theory, you know what I mean? And I knew that something was going on, something was afoot that was nefarious, but I didn't know where it was. And I just figured, hey, if there's a conspiracy afoot, it's in the Congressional Record. So I'm just going to go right to the source. And I started spending afternoons at the library reading the Congressional Record. And it happened that October 31st, 2001, it was right after 9/11. I went looking for who said something on my birthday. My birthday was October 28th. And it turned out that Ron Paul had delivered a speech on Halloween called The Foolishness of Fiat. And this was the first time where I started thinking what the heck is the dollar? Everyone's obsessed with it, everyone wants it, there's this whole empire built around it, but what is it and why does it work? And that was the first time that I ever started asking those questions. And that led me from Ron Paul to G. Edward Griffin to anti-Fed activism to Silver Circle and Freedom's Phoenix. And I was a silver bug for a long time. And then that sort of morphed into, well, what is this whole digital currency thing? What is this whole alternative currency thing? And that turned into Bitcoin and Bitcoin not bombs. So this is the evolution of an idea, but it's born out of the question, what is the dollar anyway, right? Now, at the time, in 2001, I looked around and nobody I knew was asking that question. Nobody where I was had heard of Ron Paul and hardly even the Libertarian Party. But I asked that question and I started insisting that people around me ask that question. And that question turns into, not just because of me, obviously, but because of all of the activists around, this huge spur of innovation in the realm of currency. There are so many people in this country now who enough to infight, that are we know what the dollar is and we know why it doesn't work. We need an alternative, and now we're experimenting. And it's sort of like the laboratories of democracy idea. We have laboratories of currency. So Bitcoin is a laboratory of currency. It has some things that really worked, and it has some things that it turns out in the long run don't work, or at least don't work for everyone And so we have people now saying it's not a currency, it's a store of value. And that's because it's because the transaction fees are so high that people can't do small microtransactions, so they're only using it. So it's become an investment thing. But that's the point is that doesn't mean it was a failure. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that it is a failure. If people are still going to use it, it's still going to be valuable. My prediction January 1st was that Bitcoin was going to hit 1,600, and I thought I was being outlandish. It's at 4,500 right now. So I was, being too conservative. But the point is, not only is there a laboratory of experiments in currency, whether it's gold or silver or digital assets or digital certificates that are tied to gold and silver, people are doing that too. The point now is it's an open ecosystem of experimentation. Anyone can experiment in currency. It's not just that a nation state can launch a currency to compete with another nation state's currency and we have a limited number of assets in the basket. It's now like Tommy in middle school can launch a currency that he wants to trade with his friends in his middle school in exchange for juice boxes. Like it is that open of a market that anybody can come up with it. And so, like we expect in markets, we're going to see the features that are successful either being incorporated and infect the currencies that don't have them, or to launch new currencies that have these features that people want. So it's sort of like in the 2000s, in the Ron Paul revolution era, and the Fed era, people were they were worried about a collapse. They were worried that the dollar was going to collapse and it was going to be this catastrophic event. And it's like, what are we going to do to protect ourselves from this collapse? And now we're seeing, like, there's all kinds of lifeboats. Like, it's sinking more like the Titanic, right? Like, it's going down slow. We know there's a hole in it. We know they're not going to fix the hole in it, and so it's going to go down. But there are just a multitude of lifeboats in the world now. And it's essentially free to build one. And so that's sort of, I just want to, like, put it in a sense of optimism that, like, what's really gone on in the digital currency space is nation states have lost the monopoly on currency, and they're never getting it back. Like, this technology is open source, and it can't be censored. Like, that's the one thing that has maintained in the realm of Bitcoin is you can't prevent a person from using this software. You can't prevent a person from launching a similar software. And so we want anonymity, we want microtransactions, we want all of these features of currency, we want it to be a stable store of value, we want it to be easily accessible, but the point is, governments can't take it away anymore. And that's essentially how they've always operated, is by monopolizing the currency, and now they can't. So, for me, that's hugely optimistic. That means that central planners hate markets, right? Because they don't obey. Right? Like, they don't like the price mechanism because they want price fixing. They think they know what a bottle of water should cost. They think they know how much soda you need with your lunch. They like to make decisions for other people, and markets like to make decisions for themselves, right? So the state is always going to hate markets. But this means that they've essentially lost a lever, right? The dollar was a lever they had on the market. They could fluctuate the interest rate. They could fluctuate the money supply. They thought they could use that lever to control unemployment or control, liquidity or whatever. And now it's like, no, we're not. If you pull the lever in a way that we don't like, we're making another lever. You know what I mean? So I'm not concerned so much about a collapse anymore. If there is a collapse at the level that we were worried about in like 2001, then it's going to be because of something else. Because it's essentially literally that a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like, just because the dollar is going down, that just means that all of these other currencies are going to float that much more.
Optimistic. Well, been working on the last few days, and yesterday we did hours of a podcast with some other pirates. A lot of research, and thanks to Terry, he found a pirate history movie or something he copied, so we can go. And that's what, when we were doing the Arizona Pirates, okay? And we're doing pirateswithoutborders.com. It is you should go there. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but what we had the first letter of mark. And the first letter of mark is that decentralization is the solution to pretty much everything. Well, the second letter of marque going to the Nexus conference is the promotion of the certainly currency. Now, what he was talking about, anybody can make a currency. One of the guys that is a sponsor of this is coming on the show Tuesday. Tuesday, we have Colin Cantrell from Nexus. That'll come on with Davi and I. Drew might be here. Ron Paul's coming on. So Ron Paul will be one of the speakers also, and he'll be on the show Tuesday. We're going to talk about several things. Now, he only give me a couple of segments, you know, he's limited time, but man, all right. It would just skip to the end and ask the uncomfortable questions, so we'll get to that. Now, one of the guys, Colin, I go, you know what I need is, do I have to do my own currency? Because what happened to microtransactions? What happened to anonymity? What happened to this? What happened to that? The government is really starting through different private corporations and so on, and the core development of the guys that paying and kind of maneuvering Bitcoin off into be compliant. And at that point, it becomes the mark of the beast. Because it is exactly what they always wanted. Programmable money that they know exactly in real time what you do, when, where, how. And I'm going, oh, hell no. So, fine, go ahead. I don't care. You know, I don't need to end the Fed. I just want to ignore them. So, can we do our own programmable money? So I asked, I said, if you guys can't, solve this, all the stuff you promised me for the past 8 years, me promoting this cryptocurrency from when it first started on the radio, and you guys coming to me, oh, the Levolution, we got freedom money, let's go do the freedom money. And it's not, well, then you just made a liar out of me, okay? Because you lied. So I go, what do I got to do, program my own money? And he goes, well, I can help you do that. And I go, all right. So, all right. So we went through the second letter. I'm not going to read it, but I just read the last paragraph. And then talk about the features that we want and why. When the market ecosystem is allowed to operate, humanity flourishes. But when the crown casts its shadow over the exchange of information, whether commerce or speech, human suffering is a sure result. A superior currency will result in the obsolescence of the coin of the realm and the extinction of the crown. That's the goal. At least up here. Now, I know a lot of people, I go, hey man, we need that crown to do some crown stuff because I'm afraid of other crowns and they're going to, I need to get crowned and crown me. God said something about that. You don't need no king. And they go, oh no, we really, really do. And he goes, really, really okay. You asked for it. Hey, you dumb slaves. So what I am hoping is going to happen, what I am anticipating, and it won't be for everybody. It won't be, there'll be people screaming for their chains. There will be enough option and enough diversity in economics, enough power, enough information flow, enough satellite. We're having right now, where Davi and I went, they are launching satellites, cube satellites. A launch will cost them less than $250,000. And you will be able to put up a satellite system that will cover the world, that anybody will have mesh-based Wi-Fi, internet access anywhere in the world for almost nothing. This is coming very soon, a lot faster than people are ready for. When it does,
I'm ready.
Are you going to be what? Able to even understand which one's the good one or the bad one based on what principles? That's where we come in. Freedom's Phoenix. Freedom rising from the ashes of liberty's torch. I'm telling you, if you don't know which way it's going and what somebody says, and right now you're starting to see it. All of a sudden, all the spam emails are coming out about, yeah, get your Bitcoin right here, got your Bitcoin, do the Bitcoin of the investment of the Bitcoin of crypto and give us your money, make you rich. Well, you know you made it when that starts happening, okay? Do you know which ones are good and bad? Probably not. Pay attention. Dave, we're going to go ahead and do 15 minutes from Dave, and then we're going to end it up with until Phranq gets tired of talking, so everybody get their nighty blanket and everything. So we're going to go ahead and go to that. Dave, go ahead and come on up. In the Patriot community, there is a lot of power that is being exerted on the internet, and the opinion of people. It's all about just general opinion. In my estimation, there is way more power and influence out in the election of Trump and the repudiation of the European Union by the Brexit out of the UK, and Iceland, 16% of their parliament went pirate party. I mean, you know, this is happening right now. So I wanted to get from Dave's perspective of, you know, here it comes and they, them, those, and bad guys, and we got something, to kind of get an idea of where that community thinks it's going. Now, last week he had myself on, we're talking about Bitcoin, these things, and giving them some details. And then Mike Adams, the health ranger, comes on from Natural News, right? You know, comes on after. He was on after that, right?
Yeah, he'll be on this Sunday.
Okay, so this week you have Mike Adams coming on, and he's in a battle with the search engines, with Google, with YouTube, with all these. They're coming after it, and he has a large enough platform to out them. What is he outing? What's going on? Dave Hodges.
Thank you. Ernie, I do have a question for you or Davi, and it's this. When they launch these cube stats, is that going to be a separate internet?
Yeah.
Separate apart what we have here?
Yeah, it can be. The biggest thing is the internet is just a ones and zeros going up and down. Now, what they call the internet, the World Wide Web, when we first got our first emails and so on, there wasn't the World Wide Web. It was from computer to computer, just using phone lines. It had nothing to do with this World Wide Web thing. When they created the World Wide Web, Sir Berners-Lee, when they, you know, did the World Wide Web, all of a sudden we knew immediately what that meant. Instead of it being this diversified, distributed, decentralized, we're out there talking and doing and sending ones and zeros, all of a sudden it went wham onto this big trunk of data, but you had to get an on-ramp. In fact, the first internet providers we had was called on-ramp and indirect. These were indirectly on-ramping onto this big Department of Defense internet. This is the Department of Defense.
Who's paying for these satellite launches you're talking about?
Me. Me.
Who else?
The other guy that pays part of that $250,000 is subscribers. They're going, who wants unsurveilled, uncensored, no stopping internet service?
We will.
That's it. You know, so it's subscribers. And these satellites are 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, just a little cube. Telstar is a school bus, now they got it into an iPhone. I don't think you guys understand what's coming. This, I keep screaming about it in last year. The rockets launching them now. There are hundreds of these CubeSats already up, mapping the entire globe every 24 hours now, not later. I can't emphasize this. Just go search CubeSat and you'll be found out. And yes, it is a totally different internet. It will be my phone goes up and goes to anybody else that's on that network. It can go on the internet, but why?
Who owns CubeSat?
CubeSat's just like, say, an Arcadia door. There's 15 gazillion different kinds.
We're at a crossroads in what we're doing, and Ernie said the Patriot community. I got to tell you, first of all, the Patriot community is largely ignorant of these events, and I'm on the learning curve myself. Let me start on the part of the learning curve I know, and then talk about the collision that's already ongoing, but it's gonna be huge. Google controls 80% of all organic web searches. Google's trying to put yours truly out of business. In fact, I'm going to really put the resources I have now into my radio show, and we're talking about going to a radio show subscription with other people like me, very low cost, but we're not going to be able to make money on YouTube. Google has reduced my income by 500% from YouTube. My web traffic is down 35% in 1 month, and I'm still doing the same things. My Google daily hits views were all about 26,000. Today they're about 1,500. And my direct visits I get, people that type in www.commonsenseshow.com, that's up. So I have more people following what I do directly. Big Google's killing the idea of people coming to me. And they're also blocking the URLs in some of their search engines and doing it sporadically. We have caught them. We have done the experiments. I have a lot of people that have followed me for years. They are blocking the commonsenseshow.com in Firefox and Chrome. Not 100%. I was on Darren Dammy's reality check show. My wife says he's your twin. And I was on Thursday night. This is the power of Google. I talked about Google stats in terms of what they're doing. And I said I'm coming out with an article Friday morning, yesterday morning. I published it at 5:45 a.m. It was down by 6, obliterated from my control panel, from the website. And I couldn't get back into my website and hold the signal for longer than about a minute until 1 p.m. That's not a coincidence. And I had some damning things in it. That article's up there now. And Google's not just coming after me. They're not just coming after Steve Quayle. I talked to Steve yesterday. His theory is Google is trying to take over the entire internet. That's obvious. But also, too, they're going after the liberals. This is the most surprising thing, and this will shock you. The Washington Post came out yesterday and basically called Google the king. You'd have to like a monarchy to like Google, is what they said. Their web traffic is being destroyed by Google the same as everybody else. Same with the Chicago Sun-Times, the Miami Herald, Democracy Now! These are all liberal institutions, and they don't have anything in common with us. Except Google wants total control. And who's fueling Google? Well, I can tell you who does their dirty work and where they get the technology to do to people what they did to me. Google and NSA are synonymous. In-Q-Tel, which is the arm of the CIA, is also involved with Google, has been for a very long time. I did shows on it 5 years ago. They have extreme power that other people don't. Amazon is now at war with Google because Amazon depends on Google and Google wants all e-commerce. So now they're choking Amazon traffic. They're in your appliances. Have you heard of Google Assistant? The talking appliances? They have no competition. None. They're going to own everything the way things are going. In 1910, John D. Rockefeller made $1 for every dollar made in America. The president said, I want you to come and speak to me. And he said, you send your man to talk to my man. That's Google today. Boy, they're going to make Standard Oil look like a midget in comparison before the trust action made them break up into these phony but subsidiary companies. Google is going to try to kill Bitcoin as it's done on the internet. I believe they're working for the Rothschilds. And I'm finding enough evidence to support that belief. I'll be coming out with that probably in about 2 weeks when I get all my ducks in line. And you notice Rothschild this week dumped his U.S. assets. That tells you it's coming. What we just heard right here, the crash is coming. I agree with Ernie that we can make the jump to Bitcoin, but so much of the economy won't. You better be prepped. You better have the food, water, guns, gold, ammo, medicine. You better have it, because there's going to be an in-between time when people try to migrate, that the migration's going to be tough and people are going to be suffering. You're going to have people in the streets that make Antifa look like they're peaceful. That's what's coming. The FEMA camp experimentation is on in Houston as we speak. The Walmarts I wrote about that were basically closed and converted to detention centers with all the surveillance. And they closed these places down for months for what? Fixing a bathroom? Do you remember those excuses? And now what are they doing with the Houston refugees? They're sending them to Walmart. It's part of the conditioning experimental process. It's coming, folks. We're right on the edge. Steve Quayle once said on my show, what's coming is no longer coming. It's here. We're living in the times that we've been talking about here at the Breakfast Club for as long as I've been coming. And it is right now. Now, as long as there's another internet, we can go cryptocurrency and be independent. But that doesn't control what happens on the planet Earth. That doesn't control the militaries. And I can tell you, and I can't be specific because I'm not going to fry a family member, but I can tell you at Buckley Air Force Base in Aurora, Colorado, the home of our Space Command, the UN is routinely there with DHS. They are going to try to take down these satellites, and that's going to be the next war. These guys better just not launch these satellites. They better have a way to protect them because they are going to be attacked. You can count on it. Do you think that the other guys are just going to sit there and let this happen? You think they're going to let them put the satellites up in space and not try to disrupt the process?
Bunch of more satellites.
Yeah, well, okay. Then how unlimited are the funds? And I'm not saying this is going to stop it, but I'm saying this could be the genesis for the war in space. And by the way, we're prepared for that too. My father worked in that program as long back as the 60s when he was debriefing and working on experiments with captured Nazi scientists. And no, it wasn't Operation Paperclip. This was post-Operation Paperclip. And if you don't think we have a secret space program, I'm sorry, you just haven't been exposed to it. It's there. NASA is a dinosaur compared to what we have. How far does it go? I don't know. My information comes from 1985, but we've been to places that you can't even imagine. And this is my family history I could not talk about until both of my parents passed because of my dad's national security oath. My mom would have forfeited her house, his pensions, everything if I'd have gone out and told what I knew. And my father spent the last 2 years of his life downloading me on everything he saw. And he had to surmise some things because they compartmentalize everything. But he said he did enough work in enough different areas. He said, this is what I know they have. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a war in space over this. There's not many people talking about this, and I'm going to work on that from a research angle. But Buckley Air Force Base is going to become a prime player in this right now. And by the way, the UN and DHS got there this week again. I have eyewitness on the ground that saw them working together, traveling in little UN vehicles that they keep on the base. I don't know why they feel they got to do that. Anyway, the cryptocurrency is really the way to go. This different internet is the way to go. One thing we can do to slow down what's happening until this other system is in place is stop using Google. Stop using it as a verb. Stop using their search engine immediately. When you support Google, you're supporting Rothschild. You need to stay away from Google at all costs, and you need to tell everyone you know. 80% market penetration. There's never been a monopoly this big in the history of our planet. And these people are ruthless. The Washington Post is against them. Amazon is against them. The newspapers are against them. The PBS, the ABC website, they're against them, and they're losing. They're losing, and your ability to get information is soon going to be gone. Until this system's in place, your ability to get information is going to be limited to CNN and Wolf Blitzer. And this is going to be here in 6 months to a year. Do the math, 35% decline in 1 month. 500% decline in YouTube income over 3 months. They demonetized Ron Paul. Probably because he thinks cryptocurrency is a good idea. So we are in a crisis right now. And look at the age of all of us here. You need to reach out to young people. You know, you need to explain to them that socialism only works until they run out of other people's money. Now, I'm quoting Margaret Thatcher, but that's a fact. And we need young people involved in our movement. I personally make it my mission to go find young broadcasters, give them exposure. And I would hope that some of you would take that same mission on and educate them about the kind of world they're going to live in if we can't stop this and find alternatives. And there will be a war. You know, there's no way we're getting out of this without a fight. You will never see on my website that I advocate for violence, ever. Not one time, ever. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a war. Yes?
How does Google get the bypass the Sherman Antitrust Act?
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
If you're Congressman Jones, or should I say Senator McCain, how many times do you want to go to Barbados next year? Attend a conference?
Yeah, but there's a lot of people against them.
Well, listen, they don't, final thought on this, they don't care. Because right now, they are beyond everyone's reach. You know, hey, right here, we helped get Donald Trump elected. Without us, Steve Quayle, Alex Jones, name the whole group, Donald Trump's not sitting in the White House today. And he's not lifting a finger to help us. They got him now, too.
I never admit to that, but it's Phranq.
You're absolutely right about Google. They're very subtle, and they've got a lot of techniques that they're using to disrupt traffic. Some of it's not obvious. And I've noticed in the last 3 months several disruptions in my ability to communicate with Yahoo so I can make my posts. I publish on the internet.
I'll give you one stat about YouTube, controlled by Google. I had 27 additional subscribers last week, which is incredibly low. You know, at one point I was adding about 500, 800 a day. Now I had 27 last week. I got 50 emails plus in the last week, and if you get that, you know you probably got 1,000 people. Dave, I'm trying to subscribe to your channel, but when I click on the subscribe button, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's one of the ways.
What do I do? And I'm not alone. Mike Adams, same thing. You got to listen in tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But anyway, final thought. Google might be able to kick my butt on my website, and they are. And they can hurt me on YouTube, and they are. But they can't touch my radio show because I'm on independent satellite. And this is where I'm going to really migrate most of my work, and I'm going to expand.
Tell people to use something like Startpage or think
Yeah.
search engine.
Good gopher,
I never
Mike
use,
Adams.
I never use the word
Hey.
Google anymore.
Good gopher. Anyway, my show's on from 5 to 8 p.m. Arizona time until the time change. Then we go bump to 6.
Last question.
That's
Last
what I was
question.
going to ask. I've been using DuckDuckGo or something, but can you recommend it?
No, that's good. I usually recommend Good Gopher, which belongs to Mike Adams, because we have a good relationship, and I trust him. But they're all good. Hey, look, they're all good. Yeah, it is. They're all good. They're all good if they're not Google. Yahoo is getting killed by Google. Bing has been killed by Google. You know, it's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
I said last night on a podcast that's out this morning that I can't believe I'm endorsing something the Washington Post, who called me a Russian subversive spy. I can't believe I am endorsing anything that they say, but they're calling Google the king, and you got to like the king if you like Google. I mean, it's Google versus the world right now, but it's really who they represent, and like I said, I suspect it's Rothschild. Thanks.
Kind of top it off with, see how the Trump administration is either part of or challenging this system. You're still voting? I'll tell you, man, I am not taking any credit for anybody being president, because they ain't mine. I don't care, okay? It's all just entertainment to me, because the real society, culture, action, economics, the people are outside of the government. They operate in spite of the government. They're influenced. When you talk about, what about the blah, 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 the Sherman Antitrust Act of, yada, who cares? They don't care. They'll go in Europe and they'll sue Google and say you got too big a monopoly. They went after Microsoft because they were squashing competition using competition. I don't mind if Google gets big, I don't care. As long as they are not given an advantage with my tax money to suppress other people's efforts, where they get some kind of subsidy, where they get some kind of protection, where they get some kind of intellectual property, protection where somebody else can't. I go, no. In a really free market, these things don't happen. Decentralized, autonomous organizations, DAOs is what they call them. What if you can create a company, like a satellite company, like a Bitcoin mining companies, like self-initiating contracts, multi-signature digital robot, artificial intelligence, we algorithms that don't have companies or servers. I give you an example. When Uber was doing really well and the taxi drivers didn't like it, all laymen, they recognize this. There's Uber's going to take them taxi jobs. They're doing it for cheap. They're giving $10 rides when I get $30, and what the hell? So they go in and they kick in the doors in Paris. They go into the servers. We got some servers here, and the taxi guys don't like it, and we're shutting down, and you're not allowed. There's another service called Lazuz. Lazuz runs off your smartphone. It uses cryptocurrency. There is no server. It just goes on, the internet. It's onto your phone. I want a ride from such and such and such and such. I can give you a ride on my way to work. They pull in. You pay them in cryptocurrency. The man never sees it. There is no server to kick in. It's a decentralized, autonomous, automated organization that has no bank accounts, that has no servers, that has no one in charge. So these are the kinds of companies or kinds of associations or kinds of efforts that someone's going to put a satellite up, a series of satellites. We're going to communicate to do whatever the heck we want. So some kid with a Nokia flip phone in Zambia and can trade his cows with somebody in China, and there's nobody to say he can't, don't even know he did it. This is coming because it has to. In 2009, when we started, we'll get right to you, Phranq. In 2009, when we were doing the workshop, the Freedom's Phoenix workshop, we built the studios. We're ready to rock and roll. Things are going. We're up like, you know, like Dave's talking about, man. We're getting during the Levolution right after. Man, I can't get enough traffic. I mean, boom, boom, boom. But I could see what was happening. They were getting you come on AdSense, yeah, do this, do that, and we'll control and send and do. And I don't say Google search anymore. I go Google this or Google that. I go use a search engine this, image search that, or whatever. I'm not promoting them, because what happened? YouTube, all of a sudden everybody's starting to express themselves. Google buys them. What do you think was going to happen? They want to have enough of their candidates in office in Congress to impeach Trump. Just impeach him. They just get an impeachment. Doesn't mean he got impeached. I mean, you got to go to trial then. You go to the Senate trial. You're going to have a trial. I want that trial. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I want discovery, man. We're going to put it all out now. I go, woo, I vote for impeachment. Let's rock and roll. I don't think that's going to happen. What they do want is to get enough of the left in Congress to be able to do whatever they want. That's what they're attempting to do. And then it'll be if they get to 20, and then Bill Weld to go help them out. So this is a much longer term battle that's going on. But what is in competition with Google? What if the internet is us? It's every one of our web pages, all of our information, all our cloud stuff that's encrypted, distributed, cut up in little pieces on everyone's hard drive, and we are the internet. Even if they go and they take your hard drive, it's just encrypted pieces of files. It's just sand. This is madesafe.net. This is what's coming, or something like it. When we can get off of this system, they are done. The extinction of the crown, the idea of this central plan. That's what they're afraid of. And they know it, and they got reason to be afraid. So they are trying to shut it down now. It does, like David would come to me, a lot of people, hey Ernie, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? Because I never got in. My search, it used to be like 82% or something was traffic on the Freedom's Phoenix. I stopped marketing to the search engine optimization thing. I didn't do the Facebook stuff. I don't use YouTube for my videos anymore since 2009. When I saw, they came to me and they said, yeah, we're taking over the advertising revenue of your site because you played Led Zeppelin in the rejoining music for 7 seconds. We heard it. Seriously. And I go, kiss my butt, okay? So I pulled off and said, I don't care. We're doing it and building it separately. So when this goes, and it's only the search engines on Freedom's Phoenix is only 16%. Most of my stuff is direct traffic. So when they go from 16 to none, I'll live. I built my entire business not being on them for this reason. And I've been screaming this for years. They're not your friends. They're Zuckerberg's friends. Get off the grid. We are above the grid. We got shirts for that. So this is, I am so God. I just knew that you had to experience it. For me to go, Neon, I told you so. A bunch of financial supporters of mine, it wasn't this summer, it was the summer before, we were there, and one of the older guys' daughters, the older guys kind of, yeah, if they can, they are, and they were kind of with me on this. I'm going, look, man, it's going to come. And they go, yeah, we've been through this cycle before. Now, his daughter is in her early 30s. She's not a kid. She's like the age of my kids. They grew up with the internet. They thought that's the way it is. You got to go. They kept saying it because they repeat phrases they hear from them. You got to go where the people are. And I just got an email. That was you saying my iTunes thing is messed up or something. Was that you? My iTunes channel for Declare Your Independence, boom, it starts having problems. It won't download the shows. They're coming after everything. Hell, I forgot I had it. I happened to set it up back in the day, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know?
It's stuck on August 24th, and it won't upload the new shows.
Of course it won't. You think it's not coming. So what did we do? We created our own app on Google Play Store. That'll be going someday. So where do we put these apps? Where do we put our servers? Where do we put these files? Well, we've been doing it in Maine. Our IT guy, Derek, out of Maine, has servers in Canada with backups in Finland and all over the planet of Agora hosting of whatever the hell, okay? I'm not worried about it. So this is the situation we're in now. Yesterday, all of a sudden, my Cox cable went wham! I have 300 megabyte download and 30 up, and it went down to like 3 and 3. So we couldn't do the video streaming of the Trump report. But we could save the files, and then we load them up to our servers, and then we put them out, and we got our own kind of bite me. So I have been able to maintain and increase my traffic probably 20%, while everyone like our site is plummeting and going out of business and can't fund themselves. So they go, we're going to do patron funding. So they go to Patreon, this one site. Boom, they start shutting them off of that. So what did Cody Wilson do? The 3D gun printing guy and Ghost Gunner and the government had him. He created a website called Patreon. All the alt-right going over to Patreon. Yeah, bring them on over. All the Nazis, man, whatever. So what's the marketing strategy? God, if they'll take Nazis, maybe they'll take me. And that's what's happening. So we had him on the show. He goes, absolutely. They're going to say hate. We're going to say, yeah, it's Hatreon.
Did you say hate?
Hatreon. H-A-T.
I love it.
R-E-O-N. Hatreon. Yeah, just skip to the end. So what did he get? He's in Newsweek. Yeah, Cody. There goes Cody again. You know, giving a finger to the man. Damn it. They don't understand who the people. I bet you there's probably a couple dozen people, just like it was a couple dozen people in the 90s in Arizona, a couple of dozen people nationally that are driving this and just on the tip of the spear, chest out, go ahead, make my day. We're going into the black and we ain't coming back. So this is the battle is on now. But it's just like I always said, it won't happen all at once, but it will happen overnight. Because what I'm saying is that you're seeing the dawn is breaking, and all of a sudden, boom, the sun's there. But we've been seeing this happen for years. It was obvious what was going to come, and boom, now it's here. Why? Why are they so amped up? It's not necessarily Trump. It's what Trump represents. Phranq's going to tell us all about it. Phranq Tamburri.
So, first off, I was going to, you guys all know the theme from Star Wars, the Imperial March, Darth Vader's theme. Think of that in your head as you were talking earlier. You know, movie Star Wars, new one's coming out soon, which is probably going to suck. J.J. Abrams did it. But we're here. Star Wars is here. What he's talking about, satellites destroying each other. I mean, this is the Star Wars. It just is occurring now. Just think of it in those terms. A couple things. I'm going to mention some things about medicine, strangely enough, and then Trump. But before I get into that, to echo what this discussion has been about, as far as YouTube changes, I spend quite a bit of time, more than most people I would imagine, on YouTube for different subscriptions and different topics. Almost everyone is being hit what they call the YouTube apocalypse here. That includes movie reviewers. Movie reviewers are getting their stuff slammed and their revenue decreased depending on what reviews, what movies. All sorts of topics are being hit. So it's not just about politics, and like you were saying, even the liberals are starting to get hit with this. And that's one of the themes we've seen this past week, is because of, it seems like the liberals, the Washington Post, are all kind of waking up. As far as YouTube, another way that they're censoring, because they're not removing the content. They used to remove the content, now they're not. They're saying we're not removing it, but of course they put it into the dark ages. You know, they put it into limbo and you can't find it. The other thing that they're doing is, depending on your topic, they will, imagine you put in, for instance, they use a certain example, there are only 2 sexes. Let's say if you put in a YouTube, are there only 2 sexes? Well, then as you put that in, the responses, you won't find videos about people promoting that there's only two sexes. In response, they will purposely put up videos that are social justice warriors saying how, you know, we all need to be diverse and there's transsexual being in the military. So they're actually coding and finding in their matrix, they're putting videos opposite of what you're asking about and pushing that in front of you. So this is something new that they're doing. Also, as far as with RedTube, they're trying to use a subscription service. They're also using the Nazis, what was it called? The
YouTube Heroes.
Yeah, YouTube Heroes. You can be a hero, and if you haven't seen it, it's worth all of you. Just type in with YouTube Heroes. It's a pilot program where basically they're finding teenagers that are still working or living at home in their parents' basement playing video games, and they're on YouTube all the time. You can make extra income and get extra points, right? This whole thing's about points, by basically being a Hitler Youth and turning on your family and other people on YouTube. So basically, if there's any videos out there that you find offensive or follow YouTube's ever-growing, censorship list, your job is to go and censor them and mark them and call them out for YouTube. So they're actually, and then the more you do this, the more points you get. You kind of go up the hierarchy ladder, and if you get all the way to the top, I think they give you a hat, maybe a T-shirt or something. After you finally do that enough. So this is happening now, and it's worth doing the YouTube Heroes. Do you have a comment on that?
Oh, no, I was just saying Kyle.
Oh, I thought you wanted a shirt, we wanted a hat, that says YouTube.
I forgot to click my nails.
That's right. Sig Heil. Snopes? Well, probably. So anyway, that's the other thing is with the YouTube, not just with YouTube, with Google. I know many of you are not probably Fox watchers, some of you are, but Fox has been also pushing one of the trends and the threads of what Trump has been hinting, which is antitrust regarding Google, which I think is very smart. I think it's coming. And the fact that we're discussing about with the liberals also getting hit with this, it could be interesting to see whether Trump could unify the country to some degree over Google. If enough people on all sides find this an enemy. After all, Ronald Reagan said if an alien came here and tried to attack Earth, maybe the rest of the world would be unified. I think Trump, at some point, if we get attacked by whomever, I think Trump is going to be one of those presidents that really does unify the troops. I mean, he's Mr. Personality and entertainment. God knows what's better entertainment than being a president during a time of war. I think he would shine good and bad, but nevertheless, this could be a common enemy that is domestic. And maybe in many ways it's international because Google's the whole damn world. Yeah.
Put in context what Dave was saying about Amazon and Google and so on. Amazon just bought Whole Foods because they're going to get into food delivery and kind of your drones of every meal of whatever. Amazon is doing with Whole Foods and they started lowering prices. Google partnered up with Walmart as a competition against Amazon and Whole Foods. So Google and Walmart and the secret underground of we're going to supply whatever the hell is going on, that's why Amazon and the Washington Post would come out against Google, because they see them as competition.
Exactly. And matter of fact, we're discussing it on the way over. Keep in mind with Whole Foods, with that purchase, Amazon is looking for essentially a perpendicular play here, because every single thing that you buy at this point, you can buy off of Amazon. There's only three things you can buy, or four things really. One is a car. I mean, I guess you could. Someone's selling a car, but you're not buying cars, you're not buying houses, and you're not buying gas. That's coming. But what you don't buy is produce. It's the only thing you're not really buying through Amazon. If you get Amazon Prime, they give you movies now, their version of Netflix. They give you free shipping. You get deals on the Christmas specials. You get everything. You can buy everything, as we all know, but you can't get produce. That's the only reason you don't use Amazon, and you go out to a brick and mortar store. So to own that component and your Amazon Prime would work there too. So now you literally are Amazon all of the time, from everything you buy for presents to going to the store and getting your deals. So that's one of the reasons. Now Google's trying to do the same play for the same reason. That's the only area they can't control you is fresh produce. Walmart has quote unquote fresh produce. That's kind of another discussion. But anyway, but that's why they're getting in there. They need a brick and mortar interface for you. I think, and I predict that I think the next horizon quickly will be a fight over gas stations, because that's the only other product that you don't use them for. So I can see a play where they're going to buy out, Sunoco or something.
No, that's where Amazon's checkerless
Circle K's or something. They have convenience stores that you just walk in and you walk out, and it charges your account, and it's all done with robots. So if you're going to have Circle K's of gas that doesn't have maybe one attendant there to say they did.
Yeah. So, anyway, I want to talk about Trump in a second. I want to first point out a couple just odds and ends. We have in the back Dr. Tom Lee. If you raise your hand, he's an old doctor buddy. He actually graduated years before me, so I guess he's an elder. He's a naturopath, and he's here for his first time. He knows people in Panama, and so he's definitely in our camp. Say hi. My parents are both here. My parents are divorced, and after all these years, they're together hanging out. So this is kind of a special thing, having both my parents and my better half, my wife Savarda, and then of course our baby. When we were here last 2-3 months ago, we were pregnant. If some of you remember, she was out there here, and now we have a baby. Her name is Phaedra, and thank you. She's we thought it was a boy, turns out it was a girl, which is fantastic. And here's the kicker: I can't make this crap up. She was born June 14th. Donald Trump's birthday. So it's definitely my kid. Anyway, so that being said, I want to talk about this quick thing. Yeah.
Is she on the birth? Is she on the birth certificate?
Yes. Yeah. It says she. It says she. But you know, actually, I'll make a point about this. We were supposed to have a home birth, which says a lot. If you go to a Chinese restaurant, you don't see Chinese people there. Wrong restaurant, okay? I'm just saying for someone who lived in Japan. So when you have a hospital and you have 2 doctors, the last place they want to be is a damn hospital to give birth. That should say something as well. But anyway, we wound up being forced in there. After 2 weeks, if you're not able to give birth at home, there was a complication, just the baby was not coming. They force you into the system. So you're forced to go to the hospital, and all the midwives or licenses say, you know, we have to just dump you into the system, which is what happened. And having a libertarian naturopath being dumped into the system didn't go well. I'll just leave it there. It's been a little stressful time. But here's the kicker: when we got the form to for all the birth information, it wasn't just 2-3 questions about when the baby was born. It was my whole background. They want to know how much education we all have. They want to know what kind of search engine we use. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was like a census form. And then it said, do you want your child to have a social security number? Yes or no? I went HELL hockey stick. No, hell no. I don't. Boom. And I took a picture of it. All right. We handed it in. We had to give it some Sig Heil to get out of the concentration camp. And then a month later, we get something in the mail from the Social Security Department. So I'm assuming, as I was warned, that, they start letting you know, hey, was it a mistake? Was it an oversight? This kind of thing. It was addressed to my new daughter, her first piece of mail from the Social Security Department. I opened it up, and it was her Social Security card. Some damn Nazi, because they get credit for, turning that in. Either they lied about what we wrote down, or they just didn't see it because they can't believe someone is as stubborn as we are and said no. Keep in mind, most people having kids are a lot younger than me, and they have no idea about the system. So I just wanted to let you know I was coerced to have a Social Security number when I said no, and I have proof of it. And what I do from there is another story. But anyway, it kind of goes along what the system is doing. As far as medicine, I'll get back to Trump in a second. I want to point out, Donald Trump did post something just yesterday, and essentially, I won't read it to you. He made an official note about, I hate to bring this up like a commercial, this is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. September, I am a prostate cancer specialist doctor. I'm going to the Prostate Cancer Symposium next week, which is the annual Big Who's Who. So first off, I just want to say Donald Trump said himself that, talk to your doctor and prostate cancer awareness, and we are getting improvements and a lot. If you have any questions about prostate cancer, for this 1 month, you guys can ask me questions for free, no problem. You notice my finger does that. And if you're wearing a blue shirt today, freebies around the corner. Ernie, look at him right there. Blue's prostate cancer color.
Get mine.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's for prostate cancer. But speaking of medicine, though, and we're talking about getting off the grid and extracting, I'm a little different. I became a naturopath on purpose because I wanted to be outside the system and take cash. I've never taken a dollar ever from insurance, ever. That was by design. My practice is all international and cash patients that fly in. So I arranged it that way, just like Ernie set up his site and his whole website, which is now proving, kind of like prophetic. The same thing with myself, seeing where Hillary Care was going back in the 90s, and I set everything up this direction. That said, most doctors have not. Most doctors who just want to make sure they get paid all went along with Obamacare as long as they be left alone. We don't know how that works out. So what's happening is that most of these doctors are all realizing they voted for a lemon and they have a problem. And they are being told, surprise, to work harder, longer hours, less control over no control over what you can do with patients now, and you get paid less. So what do you think doctors are going to do? They decide to leave, and they're leaving the system. But here's the catch, okay? Now that Obamacare's there, or whatever Paul Ryan care is, we'll see what comes out of it, is that all these people now think they have free health care, right? You know, the capital F there. So they all have free health care. These doctors now are all trying to leave. They don't want to take it. But the free market stands in the way. So here's the kicker. If the doctor is good at what they do, if they have a value-added service, if they're a doctor that you're willing to travel to see, someone who's, you know, I don't want to say top doc, because that top doc magazine is a little biased as well. But the point is, if you're someone who has value-added service, people are willing to pay cash and come see you. Those doctors are the ones that are leaving. So the good doctors are leaving because the free market supports it, which means that the doctors that all want to leave but aren't special, or they're just, you know, carbon copy, you know, go buy the book and whatever the app says to do, those doctors are left in the system. Which means you have many more patients, especially all the baby boomers, that are all going to need doctors, and all the good doctors are leaving and taking cash, or they're doing concierge medicine. So therefore, all the doctors you have left over are going to be the not-so-good doctors with long lines out the door. And that's what all you guys are about to face. So I'm just giving you a heads up when I give talks on econ and other markets about, you know, with medicine. Let me just say, because many of you guys are kind of in that age group, give you guys a little tip, all right? Some of you have heard this on the radio, but this is what you do. You find out what health problems you have in your history. Let's say you think you have good health with cardiac, but you have cardiac problems in your family, okay? And you might need a heart doctor. What you do is you go in Top Doc magazine, or you find out who the best guys are in town. Whoever you want to be your heart doctor, if you have a heart problem. And then what you do is you call them up, and then you lie, okay? You do a red fox. You go, the big one's coming, the big one. You know, you sit there and you tell them that, like you're having a heart attack. And you just to get in. Once you get in, then you say, oh, sorry, it was a false alarm, hangnail, whatever. But now you're in their books, and here's the kicker. The good doctors who are all leaving, they're getting filled up very quickly. So by the time the whole crash hits and everyone's now looking for a doctor, like musical chairs and music stops, they already have like no vacancy signs on these guys. But here's the kicker. Even if it's 5 years, 10 years later, once you see a doctor one time, the doctor cannot throw you out. There's what's called patient abandonment laws. And unless you and I, my patient and I, get into a fist fight, I'm not allowed to keep you out of my office. So therefore, what I'm recommending for a lot of patients is go around, find all the doctors that you think you and your family are going to need at some point, see them at least one time, get in their system, and at least you've got a place in those offices. Okay, so it's just a little tip for you guys who might be looking ahead with that. All right, back to Donald Trump, from prostates to Trump. I don't know what kind of a transition there. Something's definitely going on with Trump, and I think they're getting ready for Donald Trump to kind of blow his wad, so to speak, politically. Right. Thanks. I usually don't spit that much, you know. Sounds like
if that sounds better.
Testing. All right. So Donald Trump, you know, I mean, I'm definitely a supporter, and every day I love him more and more. I have to say, I was not on the Trump train originally, although I predicted he would win. I was not necessarily on the train. I think he's fit. No, I don't care what you're saying. But I certainly am now. I think he's going to come off later on in life. I think he's a great president. I don't know about Lincoln, or if he's going to be on Mount Rushmore, as he likes to have his face up there with. I don't know how they're going to do his hair on Mount Rushmore, but anyway, I think he'll come out as a good president in time, in retrospect. I think, you know, our friend Nick from the Libertarian Party, I'm not going to say too much because he's not here, but he's been pretty vocal about disparaging most any Trump-supported libertarians. He just says, you know, we don't even want you in the party, and I think that's a real mistake. I think he's missing, like what Rand Paul did, about why people were so excited about him. I think that, you know, his argument is, what has Trump done? What has he done? He hasn't passed anything. You know, he has any specific bill. And I think we all know, I mean, Congress is gridlocked and everyone's out to get him. But I think what his win is, I know what his win is taking on the media and taking on this establishment, the red state. The fact that Standard, like Fox News of all places, discusses the red state, even talking about that it exists. The establishment, things that we all take for granted, most people don't even know this is out there. Huh?
Deep state?
Deep state. What did I say, red state? Yeah, same thing. Same thing, exactly. Thanks. He's paying attention. So this is, I think he needs to unify and first expose it. As they say, you'll never get to an answer if you don't know the question. And most Americans don't know. Many of us have banged our heads. Many of us have probably gotten fights with people at Thanksgiving with our families through how many years? Some of us have been doing this a long time, trying to explain things that now people think are common sense. Oh, don't trust the government? That seems like most people now will say that. Oh, this system is rigged about elections? Super delegates? Wow, you know, how many Democrats didn't even know what a super delegate was? Now they do. How many Republican friends and Fox people thought that their vote counted for a primary? Now they saw Ted Cruz sweep in after Donald Trump would win a state and try and take those votes. So the average person is exposed to this. Ernie and I have friendly fights on the air sometimes because Ernie's already skipped to the end and I already know that and I'm just waiting for everybody. But the thing is, the culture, in my opinion, can't change until enough people get it. It's like the 100th monkey. Enough people get it and then they wake up. And that, to me, is what Donald Trump is doing. And as much as I loved Ross Perot and as much as I loved Ron Paul, of course, my biggest critique of them has always been that they're soft, that they're nice, and that's really a good thing to say about someone. But think about with Ron Paul when he ran, how many people said that he was nasty and mean. I don't even know what they're watching, but many people called him all these names. My mother, my sweet mom, she had heard that on the radio and when I first mentioned Ron Paul, she thought that he was this nasty guy. Some newscasters told me personally about that they interviewed him and thought he was nasty. And that's Ron Paul. We're not even talking Donald Trump yet. We're talking Ron Paul. So how could Ron Paul, who's not even a Republican, or I guess he was at the time, how could someone like him really change the system if he was there by himself? You see what Donald Trump is having to deal with. Ron Paul or Ross Perot could never have done anything with that kind of mindset, in my opinion. Now, granted, they take the upper road, but unfortunately, when you have a deep state the way it is, and the lies that you see the media doing, you need a certain personality to hammer it, and that is what I always saw with Donald Trump, and that is what the win is. I know Nick might think, well, where's the policy? What has he changed? You can't get to that until you change the mindset of the people to unify, to wake up to that they're in the fishbowl, and that has been the win. That said, Donald Trump has been he's been taking all the arrows from everyone, in my opinion, and kind of being the beachhead. He's like the first guy storming Normandy, and he's like, all right, guys, I'm holding everyone off here. This is your shot. This is your chance. Now, a lot of the turncoat Republicans have not been taking that chance. They're sitting back watching Trump take all the arrows, waiting to see if he gets thrown out or not, or something happens. That's the Paul Ryans and everyone else. They're not going forward. They're not. Yeah, exactly. They're sitting there waiting for him to get bloody, and they're going to pounce on. So Trump is sitting there holding back for everyone, and to give people some time to sort this thing out. That's what I see. I think he's holding on to his ammo, and I know he has plenty of information between the whole Clinton thing, the Clinton Foundation, the email scandal, Comey. We're starting to see things now. Just the other day with James Comey, you heard about that? They found proof now that James Comey was already writing up the draft that Hillary Clinton would be left off, essentially a pardon without an official pardon, right? So that's proof that the system is rigged, and he's been trying to prove this. Now, what's been going on though is interesting. He hasn't come forward with all of this. I keep waiting. Where is he counterpunching? Because he's the counterpuncher. But some of you have been watching Fox or some other shows have been seeing this dissemination back into the general media of many of his supporters, okay? So think about it. It started first with Sheriff Clark. Remember Sheriff Clark? So he stepped down. Then we have Steve Bannon. He steps down and goes back to Breitbart. Then we have Sebastian Gorka. That was a real surprise. He steps down, goes back to Breitbart. All these people are leaving, and they're not leaving like some of these turncoats. They're not leaving. They're not leaving because they're embarrassed with Trump. They're saying that they can do more and better on the outside. But they're all doing it in the last couple weeks. They're all leaving and almost getting set up. And Sebastian Gorka last week, we discussed on the Trump Report, some of you may have caught it, he said just wait, something's coming. Now, granted, it sounds like, hyperbole typical, but from Sebastian Gorka, he's a pretty straight-up guy. I believe that there is some kind of bombshell that's going to finally come out about the Clinton Foundation or something, who knows, something big that's going to tie maybe right into the prior White House. Something, it's probably going to be about he specifically said it would deal with the unmasking and the unmasking of those names, and of course, where does that lead to? I think that's coming, and I think that by having his supporters leaving, the people that he really trusts, who now have been in the inside, they've seen firsthand what the problem is, and now they're going to go back out and be ready so that whenever the story hits, our side, wherever that side is able to counter the avalanche of lies, and nothing to see here the liberal press is going to do. So mark my words, I think that is probably the strategy, because it's too coincidental that they're all leaving at the same time. Last thing, just a couple of quick things. Hurricane, we had the last, I think the Hurricane Harvey, in some ways, has been a last straw for many people. I think average Americans, I'm hearing at least online, and a lot of liberals that are changing. There's a thing called Red Pill. I know you guys all know what a red pill is, but there's many liberals now that have websites dedicated to their red pill moment. And more, it's like a whole trend on YouTube, of course, until they get banned, where young 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are talking about how they were Bernie Sanders supporters and they hated everything Republican, and now they're, maybe not 100% Republican, but they get how twisted the system is making their minds. But I think the media, people are having this distrust. Obviously, it's been building and building, but Hurricane Harvey, I think, has put that last nail in the, well, maybe not the last nail, but for many people, they're seeing how corrupt it is, because Donald Trump, who gave $1 million of his money, who went to visit Texas, he's done a number of things, and still, if you watch MSNBC, you'd think he's the Antichrist. He can't do a thing right. He's constantly, it's not compassionate, he's hateful. It's a complete different scenario, and I think since we're not talking politics, we're talking just something that's a natural disaster. To politicize something like that, I think, is waking up many people that have been on the fence about the media. So anyway, that's pretty much it. The very last thing is that you mentioned earlier, the Antifa, and the liberals are, I think, backing off. Washington Post has now said that they find Antifa as maybe a terrorist type group. The liberals are now finally coming out and saying that Antifa is not a standard group that liberals need to back. Liberals in many ways now are taking a step back from this consistent pounding on Trump. I'm seeing Washington Post saying things defending Trump supporters. I was in shock. I sent it to Ernie. I said, Ripley wouldn't even believe this one. So this is happening in many ways, all at the same time that Trump's people are being put out there. So something's out there. I think the other side knows it. Maybe they're trying to show compassion on the other side, that they're not 100% biased, which they are. Maybe they're going to put a couple good articles at the last minute to get into heaven. But that's what essentially I'm finding. That's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of it, check out the Trump Report. We go in much more detail and play clips and respond to that. Yes?
Where in the hell is the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions? That guy is a great disappointment.
Well, I think he's still licking his wounds from when Trump went after him before, but what he was doing was training him. He's saying...
Sessions for the cameras.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The question was, where's Jeff Sessions been? I'm sorry.
That's BS. I'm sorry. The guy is he wouldn't say shit in a mouthful.
Yeah, that one I'm not going to repeat. But yeah, well, he's, I'm not a fan of him. I mean, Trump knows how to... look, he picked him because Trump understands one thing. You keep your enemies closer, and after all, I think it was FDR, or a famous politician, said that you don't have enemies if you just make your enemies your friend, and Trump understood that in negotiation. First thing he did, he took Mitt Romney out to dinner, remember? And then he goes, all right, Mitt, what do you want? And he put his daughter as head of the RNC. Right? I mean, Mitt Romney's daughter is running it. Of course, she drops off the last name Romney for the first time now that she's asking for money from RNC donors. So he did that with everyone. He started out, we're attacking the liberals, but let's make the conservatives our friends. Jeff Sessions, he owed, of course, just like Sheriff Joe, obviously the pardon. But for Jeff Sessions, he was one of the first to come out supporting him. He owed some favors, but In 6 months, if you notice, Donald Trump has been doing cleanup. Many of these positions have all been changed after exactly 6 months. So it's like he gave everyone a spot, and 6 months later, after kind of the initial dust started settling and the liberals quieted down for a bit, he started changing positions for people that had not shown the loyalty. He's like, look, I gave you a shot, I put you in because you supported me, now I'm picking my people. And he's been doing this transition quietly and sometimes loudly. Yes?
I'm tied in with this thing. I don't really follow it like a lot of the rest of you, but he's put people in there compromising, they're no integrity, they're wannabes, why don't he just put people in with some real integrity and values to start with?
I completely agree, and that's why a lot of people were angry, including myself, in the first number of months, the people he picked. But I think, Trump always has another motive. He is brilliant politically. I honestly believe that. I see it. He's putting those people in, like I said. Look, if he ticked off the Republicans and Democrats at the same time, he'd have no one. So he had to at least capitulate to some degree with the mainstream Republicans. I didn't say agree, but just have them in his administration. Don't fire them right away. Now he's moving them out. And remember, the top supporters are leaving and having positions where they can say more and expose more. So I think the pressure is going to come from the other direction, and those hangers-on, those that are not going to go along, are going to be pressured further. Which leads to the budget. Remember, the health care bill went down a couple times because the Republicans were still sitting back, the mainstream Republicans, the establishment, were still waiting for Trump to be impeached. They kept thinking, is there something to Russia? Is this Russia thing really occurring? Is Trump going to leave? The establishment Republicans did not want to put their clout and everything behind supporting a president that they thought was going to be thrown out soon. Well, after the constant bashing on this president, he's still there. He's still there. It's like a bad dream for them. The Russia thing went away. The whole thing of North Korea, they thought he was insane. He was going to bomb the whole world. North Korea they stood down. You know, everything they've bashed him on, where have these things been? I mean, where have these stories gone? They haven't. The only thing they have left now is Harvey, and they're saying he's an uncompassionate person. That's not true, ringing true. They have nothing left. And after you scream enough, okay, the little boy who cried wolf, that is where he counterpunches. Donald Trump is Muhammad Ali, okay? It's the rumble in the jungle. Remember the rope-a-dope? That is what he's doing. He's sitting back just taking all the hits for 6 months. And now he's changing up his cabinet. The people he trusts, he's putting out in different positions. That's why he didn't want Sean Hannity on his cabinet. He said, stay where you're at because you're doing a better job. You can do more for me as the unofficial mouthpiece of this administration. And now I believe the counter is coming. Now the liberals have tired themselves out and they've blown their credibility and they've exposed all their corruption. I think now the counterpunch is coming, and that is classic Donald Trump counterpunch, and that is what Muhammad Ali did. Same strategy, yeah.
I know your heart is right, but it seems like Obama, and I'm on the outside on this, Obama just put a bunch of communists in there, and nobody said crap and everything, so why don't we, I'm still thinking, why don't you keep life simple, we put the real stuff in there, and instead of this, we're moving 3 moves ahead and 2 moves ahead, and meantime, you're losing ground the whole time. I mean, it's a compromise.
Because politics doesn't matter. Public opinion matters. Mm-hmm. This general opinion thing is what matters. Here's a TV reality show guy that's been playing in on public opinion of him with Miss America and Universe and, you know, you're fired and all this other crap. He understands the focus groups and how and demographics of what blah, 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 blah. This is not about the presidency.
Somebody needs to tell him he's the president. Do it like Obama. Just do it instead of.
Yeah, but he can't do much without the establishment Republicans backing him, and they have no backbone.
But if the public opinion says, yeah, that's good stuff.
Well, I don't want the public opinion to say every president that comes in just write an executive order. Yeah. You know, I'm like, you know, I don't want them to be my boss. Everybody was like, I gotta say this. Everybody with the Obama administration. Constantly I got, but he's doesn't have the right paperwork. He has the wrong birth certificate. He didn't do it right. He's from a kid, I get it. So if he had the right paperwork, he'd be your boss? See, I don't care. The politics, it is not the person with the shiny badge. It's not the one with the fine hat. It's not the one with the uniform or the lab coat with the stethoscope around, goose-step into whatever collective idea of how they're going to rule me. I don't care. I want the mindset of why are you going to the blue pages and the white pages is the first thing in your head to look for permission to do what you want to do. Why is that? How did we get programmed that we're looking for a government permission slip to do anything or to have somebody else go advocate for what we want? The only thing that government was supposed to do, and G. Edward Griffin and I had this little discussion yesterday. I'm going, is it a generational thing? What the hell's going on? Why are you guys so enamored with some document that enslaves me but it doesn't bind them? They say, no, you're in the Constitution, you're born here in America whether you like it or not. And we're going to go, yeah, well, it says you can't. Yeah, well, that doesn't count for us. You have to do whatever, but we don't. This thing created the system for us to rule you, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, but it says you can't. Well, that doesn't matter. So this idea that we put into the crown, that's the whole point of this pirate thing. Quit thinking in terms of you need a government permission slip, that you need somebody else to do it for you, and they did it wrong, when you're perfectly able to just do it yourself.
So in the meantime, we got a president says we need...
There ain't no
permission
meantime!
slip.
You know what? This is how you declare your independence. I declare my independence. See how easy it was? No government form. Quit thinking that way.
That's why I'm
Quit
suggesting
thinking
the
that way.
president
You are
needs to
not
quit
going to be
thinking
able to
like that.
advocate thinking that
He's
way
thinking
here
that
with
way.
me. It's not going to happen.
Someone says he needs permission,
Yeah.
you know, and...
So, anyway, before I take questions, just real quick, the healthcare thing went down because the Republicans wouldn't back him because they're waiting to see if Trump was going to get thrown out. He hasn't. Everyone's blown their wad, as I said. Now, though, the dust is settled. We're looking at the budget, and the budget is not as controversial as healthcare. And I think now the Republicans are going to have to come on board to some degree. So we'll see what happens now that they're in recess. We'll see if the establishment finally start to come together. It might give Trump a so-called win. I know that's debatable, but as far as for political, at the end of the day, Donald Trump is, I think, changing the culture, and he's doing it through the fight that he's doing. I think that's really the win. Is he changed the culture by first exposing and educating people to the problem. That is what's going on, and I'm still thrilled. Donald Trump is the gift that keeps on giving, as far as I'm concerned. Yes.
Okay. The latest expose in the last 48 hours of Jim Comey.
Yeah.
Would you agree that if the Department of Injustice doesn't go after the whole regime of the Clinton regime, would you agree there's something wrong?
Oh, God. 10 ways to Sunday, of course.
Okay, well then when are they going to do it?
I'm telling you, it's coming. I believe it's coming. I've watched this guy every day with this manipulation of trying to outmaneuver the arrows from every group. The Democrats are taking shots at him. The media taking shots. The Republicans taking shots. You've got the whole world economy and the government's taking shots, and he's the only one with the backbone's been taking it this entire time. So he needs, in 6 months, he needs to create a bubble around of people he trusts, and then figure out what information is out there. Remember, it was a hostile takeover. He was a hostile takeover of exactly, there we go. It was a hostile takeover of the White House and the deep state. The deep state needs to be flushed, but how do you do that quickly? How can you? I mean, it was JFK, I think, or no, it was Clinton. When Bill Clinton got in, to his credit, he said, there's only 2 things I want to know when I become president. Who shot JFK, and are there aliens in Area 51? That's like, hey, when I'm president, I just want to know those 2 things. And of course, supposedly he didn't find that out either. And it was interesting when I finally realized how impotent the president really is with the deep state. That even if there were aliens, the president couldn't just march in there and do it. So to figure out and flush these people out and do it legally, remember, Donald Trump took all the hits for firing Comey. But why did he fire him? He fired him, though, when Comey was out on the road. Remember, he was giving a speech. He fired him when he was out on the road. They got his computers and stopped anyone from shredding those things. So he's not stupid. He has that information, and I'm telling you, I'm watching the machination of what I just said. People are going back out into the industry and media, and they keep saying, something's coming, and I can see the strategy. What it is, I don't know, but I know it's dealing with Clinton, and I know it's going to be the ultimate counterpunch to all this crap that they've been throwing at him for no reason, and the lies of this nothing burger Russiagate. Yes.
When he got those computers from Comey was the head of the military-industrial complex. He was Lockheed Martin. They now have the playlist. That's what shut off the fucking Russian investigation, the Pizzagate. All that stuff closed down,
Mhm.
when they no longer have access to the controls of the deep state that they got from Comey's computers.
Yes, yes.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I think there's one thing that
Can't hear you.
I'll repeat the question, but go ahead.
there's one thing that I think that we're really not quite tuning into, which is, and you got to it, where public opinion is what matters. But the problem is we're not being allowed to know what public opinion is in this country. That's the power that they have
Of Google,
generating a complete mental insanity about what the hell our opinion is.
Brainwashing.
That's our problem.
I completely agree. He was talking about, we don't really know what the public opinion really is. I'll tell you the real exposure, and this says the real reason why Donald Trump needed to be in there, in my opinion, is, and I had on our show 42 reasons I knew Donald Trump would win, and that's it was very technical reasons about the Electoral College and different things. It's another story.
It's about 45.
It's 45. But, yeah, what was your point about the public opinion? Here's the thing. The fact that one of the reasons, not the only reason, it's just media bias, but how did they miss the popularity, the fact he would win? How come the polls were wrong? There's many reasons about it. I ignored those polls from day one. I knew he was going to make it. But why? Well, my family, I have my own family members who, God knows, I'm pretty opinionated, not as much as this gentleman, but I'm pretty opinionated. And, we got a few guns at our house, so it's not like we're worried about liberals. But I had people in my own house, who, and others, close family, who are afraid to say that they were in favor of Donald Trump, or at least they're going to put up with him. It wasn't like they were Trump fans. They were just afraid. They wouldn't put a bumper sticker on their car, get keyed. They don't want to put on their Facebook that all their friends saying Bernie Sanders and all of this and Hillary Clinton, but you're afraid to put down who you want to vote for president? That is the reason the pollsters got it wrong, because when you sit back and you say, Mrs. Smith at the store, so now that Donald Trump came out saying that, he used the P word about women and that, blah, blah, blah about women, he hates women, are you going to support Donald Trump in the upcoming election? Right? And every time they did a poll that was anonymous, Trump won. He always did well. When it was not anonymous, it did poorly. And so the issue, though, is think about the larger issue. Here is America, where the majority or a large number of people were so afraid to say who they wanted to vote for that the pollsters got it wrong. That is the issue. You're afraid as well. And that shows, if nothing else, we can talk all day about Google and everything else, when the average American is afraid to say who they want to vote for, that, as you were saying, we're here now. This time, it's not in the future. We're here now in the fascist states of America, and Antifa is just another side effect of it. But if anyone out there is afraid to state who you wanted to vote for, and not proudly say, hey, this is what I'm voting for, then we are succumbing to that fascist state. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, two people. One I can't identify, but she's called public in the FBI. Trump has to get control of this, and a lot of you have read my stuff. A lot of you have read my stuff. Have heard me.
Let's take this one.
Okay. You've heard me talk. You've heard me talk about Monica Wesolowski, State Department employee, who's a close personal friend of mine. Monica is going to be under indictment for violating the Hatch Act. Her crime and what they don't like are two different things. Her crime is she displayed Trump's photo in her workplace after he was elected. Yet Obama's photo is everywhere where she works, and he's no longer president. She wouldn't go along with the graphics where they would only display white people as violent criminals for child sex trafficking. And she exposed this on my show. The FBI person I went to college with, known her for longer than I want to admit, she's coming out in January when she retires. But what she tells me is there are people in the FBI who never supported Comey. They were there long before him, and they were looking for ties into the Clinton Foundation and all these other avenues. And they kept getting their funding pulled, and she was one of the funding approval people. So here's my question on this. I'll make a statement, I'll let you respond to it. Until Trump gets a measure of control of his own bureaucracy, okay, nothing is going to happen. There's not going to be any new revolution, sudden indictments of Clinton or anybody else. until this crap gets straightened out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to piggyback exactly what you were just saying, because what people don't understand is about 80% of the White House right now are Obama holdovers, and you got guys like Joey DeStefano, who's an Obamaite, who is in charge of vetting and letting new people into the White House. And then you got the deep state who's not giving Trump's people the security clearance. And so you can't go out blowing your wad if it's all the Obama holdovers, deep state, they're going to sabotage you. So they need to just work on being able to get his people in. And I think they can't come out with the big guns until they get all the people in. And I'm not sure if you saw this, but even Nancy, this is moving on to a different subject, but Nancy Pelosi even said that the Antifa is basically a terrorist organization that needs to be locked up. Same with Morning Joe.
They're being forced to be, they're being forced to at least capitulate on that point. You know, and sounds like just some random thought, but about when you come into a new government and you don't know who's controlling what, and maybe you need them. Way back in the Roman Empire, before it became the Holy Roman Empire, the Romans, of course, wanted Christians gone. They threw them into the lion's den, had them eaten. But they kept a few good ones around. And you know why?
Part of the administration.
They kept, the main part of the administration. You know why? Because Christians, unlike the rest of them that followed Zeus, Christians had this thing called the Bible, and they sat around their little crazy cults, the little Jesus cults they called them, and they would sit there and they would read from this Bible, meaning that Christians were literate. And so therefore the Romans loved putting them in the government because they could actually read the documents. Until finally, when there were so many of them, they tried to purge them. They couldn't purge them because then they're getting rid of the entire government. The government would collapse. That's actually how they wound up staying in and converting the government. Of course, legend is that Emperor Constantine had a dream one morning. He woke up and said, and he visioned that his army beat the pagans because the shields had the little Star of David or something on there, or the Christian cross. Had the cross, right. So he goes, you know what? I think I'll be a Christian, and all of you are too. You know, they were the Holy Roman Empire. So maybe there's something there too. Trump comes in, and he's so new to this, he knows what efficacy is, he knows what work ethic is, and he knows that government is nothing but a friction on the system. But when you come in, you're brand new. You're sitting there like taking over Yahoo, trying to figure out who are the players, what is your job, how does this work. And what's fascinating, I'll get you in 1 second, Ernie, when he gave that talk about Charlottesville, before he talked about Charlottesville, if you remember, he was discussing about how the infrastructure bill that he was changing. And he was talking about all the regulations. Remember, he sat there and he showed the whole list of regulations and then said how they're gonna make it a little shorter. You know, what was fascinating is when Trump talks, he speaks technical, but then he goes off script and looks at you in the camera and says, yeah, here's all the technical stuff. Yeah, I get it. Blah, 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 blah. You know. But then he turns to Ernie and he says, but you know, this is all, for the regular people, this is all BS, okay? This is why the system doesn't work. So he's recognizing that he is learning on the job. Here are the problems. I'm showing you that I understand it, but as a businessman and as a practical, pragmatic American, that all of you voted for me, this is crap, and this is where the problem is. So be on board with me, get on the Trump train, we can do it. I think that's what he's trying to do in the vernacular, how he speaks in two different ways. Yes?
I know, it's so obvious. The news media isn't doing news. They're writing it, they're brainwashing us. Since the 1920s and 30s, and Adolf Hitler knew how to operate. The news media, that organizations, they're reprogramming our minds. They didn't miss it. They just weren't able to create reality that they were claiming. They're liars. They're frauds.
Yeah. Well, the guys are getting tired. One last question. Any last question? All right.
I got a comment.
Wait. The Hillary supporter in the back. Okay, go ahead.
2 quick comments, real quick. The polling thing,
yeah.
You're right, they were wrong. They were right on the popular vote. They didn't factor in the electoral college. That's comment number 1. Number 2, if you're getting tired of watching Fox, there's a great new system you can watch. If you got DirecTV, go to 347, channel 347, One American Network. I think you'll really like it.
Guys, I'm going to finish up here, but if any of you have your own networks or things like little pearls that you listen to, let me know afterwards. I'll throw one to you, Dick Morris. Dick Morris used to work for the Clintons. DickMorris.com does a video blog. It is one of the best inside information. It's chock full of info. Highly recommend DickMorris.com. Never thought I'd be listening to Dick Morris. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
I get frustrated when you have
so much supporting evidence of exactly what we've been talking about for years over at Freedom's Phoenix, and certainly our activism, the Levolution. I don't know how many examples you guys got to get. I just want to backhand anybody that says, yeah, but if we get the right guy to do the executive order, then it'll all be fixed. No, it won't, until you understand the problem, and the general opinion is we need to fix the problem. How do you think Donald Trump got elected in the face of all the fraud and everything that happened? It was because people perceived him as being an opposition to the status quo of whatever was screwing them.
Yes.
They go, this is bad.
Yes.
He, as much as a billionaire can represent being outside the system,
Yes.
you know, he is going to defend us, you know, from the system, the deep state of whatever. Do you think, they go, it's first 100 days, and he'd let him do it. Oh yeah, I'm going to embrace the stock market, which I thought was stupid, so he's got some reason. I'm going to embrace the stock market run up. Yeah, we're going to have the first 100 days. We're going to get health care. We're going to go whip ass. Do you really think he thought he was going to change everything in that time? I don't think so. I think he wanted them to bring everything to bear and lay it out for everybody to see. Well, they're seeing. Now what? I have no idea. I have no idea. But until you get public opinion on your side, you are not going to accomplish a damn thing. And who knew that more than anybody else? Well, a lot of people. But my era, it was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan just goes straight to the people.
Yeah.
Well, Trump does it several times a day in 140 characters on Twitter. And what was the first thing the media wanted to know when he got inaugurated? Well, you're not going to do that, you know, evil kind of, you know, nasty Twitter bypass us, we can't control you thing, are you? Someone presidential is that? Why, yes, I will. So Valerie Plame, I didn't know it was Valerie Plame, ex-CIA agent a couple of weeks ago, talking about they wanted to buy Twitter so they could shut down Donald's channel. But what they didn't know, Davi and I went to meet with Jim Cantrell at Vector Launch Systems, and we were supposed to meet with him the Friday before, and he had to reschedule the following Friday because he was meeting with the CEO of Twitter. So Twitter, when this came out, I go, do you think Twitter would say? He goes, no. That was all BS. It's just another headline. It's just more BS. So what happens is Trump understands the one main thing: public opinion. So now when they are, no matter what they do, the more they do it, is what happened throughout the election cycle, the more people were supporting Trump, or the concept of Trump, or whatever, not them. So now, because they don't have a choice, they, them, those. Who are they, Ernie? Who's they? I got a whole alphabet of they. There's those that just want to be left alone, those that just won't leave them alone. Well, the guys that won't leave us alone are what? They are shutting down Dave. They're trying to shut down me. They don't have an effect on me, except my ISP, CoxNet. They're going after, you know, kind of, I can see the stuff happening. So what do? We're going to the next. There's going to be a sucking sound, as Ross Perot would say, and it's going to be away from the social media that you have come to understand now. That is what Donald Trump is counting on. That's what he's showing, and why he's always going after Amazon, saying, hey man, we got an antitrust laws. The president can do some stuff. Does he really need to? No, we just need alternatives, which is what the tech industry in Silicon Valley is trying to stop. And these young anarchist, activists, voluntarists, leave me alone as kids, are the ones that are doing and bypassing. So if you're not up on the technical ability of us to be able to express our opinion without fettering, without, control, without censorship, if you don't understand the power of that, what the hell do you think the internet was? And it was controlled. They just thought they could use it for them. So now as they're getting it kind of latched down, it's going to be internet 2-point kiss my butt, and they don't know what to do about it. And where did you hear about it? Hello? Neon Flash and I told you so. Peace.
Do you know that CenturyLink knows this? They were out at our house. My wife asked them, why aren't you doing infrastructure repairs and growth? Well, there's new technology coming. We're not going to invest in this because we don't know what's going to happen.
They know it's going to be just all done. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Now you have all your little private conversations.
Time for Phranq. Want the mic? You want the mic for Phranq? The mic for Phranq? What? Phranq. He's got the drawing.
You gonna have a drawing?
Drawing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Phranq.
Phranq.
Okay, I'm sorry. Frank Richie.
Thanks a lot. Glad to hear
Yes, I did. Okay, Frank. Frank's got to do the drawing announcement. All right, you guys, we have fun today? Yay! Where else can you get all this good stuff with the Breakfast Club? Yep. It used to be the internet until they shut it down.
All right, first choice for the books back there. I gotta put my glasses on.
What? Something new?
8238. 8238.
Ross wins, yay!
Oh, yeah.
You don't know how to read, though. You're going to learn, huh?
Okay, next chance for the books. If you want to get back there,
I didn't have my reading glasses. It's 6. I'll read it again. That's what I didn't have my reading glasses.
8238.
I got 6.
8238, waiting for 8238.
Yeah, he's got it back there. He got it back there.
You tried.
Okay, second chance. 8235.
Right here, Frank.
8235. Got it?
Les got it.
Got it, good. There's Les. Okay, let Les get back there and get a chance. Got one more.
That's the easiest way.
8246.
You promised me a winner.
Well, I give you a chance, you know.
Next one.
8246.
I'm open to suggestions and how to do this.
All right, Frank.
Okay, 8246.
Good.
Everybody happy?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. You get enough to eat today?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah, everybody thank you, Donna, for doing a great job and for putting out the grits and all of that stuff. Thank you, Donna.